Hello students, welcome to the second lecture session of Codes, Standards, Specification and the Procedures. Myself, Shankho Ghosh, Assistant Professor of Automobile Engineering Department at Dr. Sudhir Chandra Shul Degree Engineering College under the JIS group. Today, we'll discuss on the second part of the codes, standards, specification and the procedure, which is taken from the module number 11 in the name of Common Application of NDT. This topic is taken from the subject of non-destructive testing and application. This is the 7th semester automobile engineering students subject and the subject code is AUE 705A. This is an optional subject. So student, before starting today's class, in the previous lecture, we discussed about the codes standards, and during studying the standards we discussed the various type of NDT standards which are used internationally. And now today we will discuss continue the standards. We will continue with the standards, specification and the procedure. After that we will learn about the Indian standard which is used for the NDT and the international standard which is used for the NDT. So student, let's start today's class. That is the second part of codes, standards, specification and the procedures. So in the standards there are the various type of standard. There are the various type of standards which are formulated by the different agency, and the agencies are as follow. There are the 5 agencies. Number 1 is international and the national standard. Number 2 is industrial standards. Number 3 is government and the military standards. Number 4 is industry practices, and number 5 is company standards. So these 5 standards are the main agency which is these are the main 5 agency which have under these 5 agencies there are the various types of standard. So student, let's start with these international and national standards. This is the formal level this is the formal level in which fundamental parameters or the characteristics are defined either internationally ISO or by the national authorized agency. So this is the formal level in which the fundamental parameter, any kind of fundamental parameter or the characteristics, those are defined either internationally or by the national authorized organization. In this case, in the case of international systems of units, the reference standards of various units are developed and maintained by the Federal of Conference on Weights and Measures. So in case of the International System of Unit, the reference standard of various units are developed and maintained by the Federal Conference on Weight and the Measure, which is intended as a basis for worldwide standardization of measurement unit. So this Federal Conference on Weight and the Measure is intended as a basis for worldwide standardization of this measurement unit. The International System of Unit, abbreviated as SI unit, is universally adopted. The National Authorized Agency for India, is the Bureau of Indian Standard, that is BIS. These standards include such basic parameters as linear length, weight, resistance, and the frequency. So these standards include such a basic parameter, that is the linear length, weight, resistance, and the frequency. So it is necessary that all qualified calibration center, for an example, the regional test centers of BIS, this must have their master instruments collaborated with a specific manner with the master instruments available at the national standard organization like BIS or the National Physical Laboratory in India. The accuracy of these master standards is generally several times greater than the accuracy which is required in industrial laboratories. The accuracy of these master standards is generally several times which is greater than the accuracy required in industrial laboratories, because it is necessary to transfer standards through the several levels before they reach on individual company. Next is industry standards. Industry standards are usually product oriented. Industry standards is based on this product oriented. These are defined and maintained by the concerned trade association or a technical society. These industry standards defined and maintained by the concerned trade association or a technical society. The main requirements for this type of standards, including product nomenclature and the need for the interchangeability of manufacturers' product. So students, the main requirement for this type of standards must include the product nomenclature, that is the number 1, and number 2 is the need for interchangeable of manufacturers' products. As an example of such industry standard is the color code for the electrical components. Next is government and the military standard. Government organization, in particular military or defense, specify their own standards for the production and the testing of most components. Government organization, in particularly military or the defense, they are specify their own standards. They are specify for their own standard for the production and the testing, of the most components they are basically used. In many cases, the defense components must meet stringent requirement must meet the stringent requirements. Thus, the special standards suitable for the evaluation of the defense components are prepared. In numerous cases, a non-military company may adopt the military standard at their company standard to take benefit of the stringency of this standard. So this is the government and the military standards. Next is industry practices. Industry practices are also followed within an industry. The industry practices are followed within an industry. These practices are formulated by the industry and the adapted by the consumers. The reason for including practices under the standards is the reason for including practices under the standards is the amount to actual standard as far as their use within an industry is concerned. The amount to actually standards as far as their use within an industry is concerned. Example of such functions are accounting, inspection, purchasing, etc. Next is company standards. With many years of experience, a company develops its own standards. And practices both formally and informally. So they are unique to a particular company. So just because of the experiences of the number of years, a company developed its own standard and the practices both formally and informally. They are the unique to a particular company. These standards and practices define the steps to be used by everyone in the company who is performing a certain function such as inspection, rectification, purchase and selling. These practices also specify the limitation of authority within the particular business cycle or the transaction. So students, these are the company standards. Now coming to the specification. After complete the standard, next is specification. The document that prescribes in detail, the document that prescribes in details the requirement with which the product or the service has to comply. The requirement with which the product or the service has to comply with is termed specification. Specification is of paramount importance in achieving the quality. In many cases, poor products or services, the poor product or the services are the result of inadequate or the result of inadequate, ambiguous or improper specification. For a product to be manufactured, and operated properly, different specifications for raw material, process, inspection, acceptance, installation, operation, documentation, etc. And these have to be finalized and adapted with the reliability. So for a product to be manufactured, and operated properly in different specification for the raw material, process, inspection, acceptance, installation, operation, documentation, etc. These have to be finalized and adapted with the reliability. The specifications are either evolved by national bodies. Or by the manufacturer based on their own experiences. The specifications are either evolved by the national body or by the manufacturer, which is based on their own experiences. Next is procedure. These are the last level of documents to be adapted in the shop floor. These are the last level of documents in the shop floor for any process or the servicing. The procedure are formulated in such a way that these documents give all the specific details. Pertaining to the activity. So students, the procedures are formulated in such a way that the documents give all the specific details. All the specific details pertaining to the activity. This is essential since it is a shop floor document. Which has to be compiled with strictly by different level of personnel. which has to be compiled strictly by different levels of the person. So this procedure is essential since it is the soft law document which has to be compiled with strictly by the different level of personnel. No change in procedure is allowed. No change in procedure is allowed to be made without the written approval from the authorized person in the organization. So there are no change in procedure which is allowed to be made without the written approval from the authorized person in the organization. The procedure is prepared in such a detailed manner that the soft law personnel can follow it without any ambiguity. The soft law personnel can follow it without any ambiguity. So the procedure is prepared in such a detailed manner that the soft law personnel can follow it without any ambiguity. The written procedure helps to attain reproducible test result in NDT. The written procedure helps to attain the reproducible test result in NDT. For an example, in the case of ultrasonic testing, there are many factors which affect the ultrasonic examination. These factors include various steps. From transmission of voltage pulse, which generate the ultrasonic pulse till the reflected pulse is received and is displayed on the CRT. The paragraph T 522 of Article 5 Section 5 of ASME 1991 edited thus specify the requirement of a written procedure to help the achieve reproducible result. When requirement by the referring court, when required by the reference code, any examination shall be performed in accordance with a written procedure. For an example, in the case of ultrasonic testing, each procedure shall include at least the following information as applicable. Right? Number 1 is material type and configuration of item to be examined. Material type and configuration of item to be examined, dimensions, product, form, that means casting, forging, weld, etc. And number 2 is surface from which the examination shall be performed. the surfaces from which the examination shall be performed. Number 3 is surface condition. Number 4 is Copeland details like brand name, type, etc. Number 5 is techniques, that is maybe straight beam or angle beam or contact or the immersion, etc. Number 6 is angles and modes of the wave propagation, angle and modes of the wave propagation in the material. Number 7 is search unit type, frequencies and the transducer size. Number 8 is special search units, wages, shoes and their types. Number 9 is type of ultrasonic instruments. Number 10 is description of collaboration block and the techniques. Number 11 is direction and the extent of scanning. Number 12 is data to be recorded and the method of recording, manual or the machine. Number 13 is automatic alarm and recording equipment or both. Number 14 is rotating, revolving or scanning mechanism. Number 15 is post-examination cleaning. 16 personal qualification requirement, and the 17 is review or the demonstration of the procedure as required by referencing code. So these 70s are the important for the ultrasonic testing. The next is Indian standard for the NDT. Recognizing the need for standardization in the field of NDT, a separate technical committee to deal with the NDT work and called Non-Destructive Testing Sectional Committee or MTD 21, which was formed in the year of 1965 under the Metallurgical Engineering Council of the Peace. So far 36 standards have been formulated by this committee. These standards include codes of practices. Test methods, definitions, safety codes and the specification. So within these 36 standards, these 36 standards include the code of the practice, test methods, definition, safety codes and the specification. These standards are developed based on the discussion within the committee consisting of experts with primary interest in specific material and the product to formulate the standards concerned effort is made to obtain a board involvement and agreement between group of varied interests. The standard thus formulated by the committee represent true consigned documents, participation of procedure, consumer, national laboratories and other technical institutions and ensure the meeting this object. Ensure the meeting of these objects. International standards for NDT. A separate technical committee that is ISO or TC 135 was set up by ISO in the year of 1969 to deal with the standardization work in the field of NDT at international level. At the international level, the committee functions through the 6 subcommittees. The committees function through the 6 subcommittees, each concerned with a particular technique. India being a participating member of the committee, and it maintains close with its work. The international standards and recommendations. The international standards and the recommendations are always kept in view while formulating corresponding Indian standards. This is done as a matter of policy because these international standards are adopted by many other countries as the basis of product inspection, product approval and certification system, and they tend to govern product acceptance throughout the world. It is essential that India participates in the development of international standards to ensure that the viewpoint of Indian interests are incorporated in international standards. The modern approach to quality control lays emphasis on the manufacture of quality product at the first instance rather than the correcting it later or sorting out the goods and the defective products. The data on the quality has to be collected in not only the production stage but at all possible stages, right from planning to the use of product. And this has given rise to the concept of total quality management or the TQM. Under this concept, due consideration is given to the quality aspect of the product at each stage of the production: the cycle time, marketing, design, purchasing, production engineering, manufacturing, inspection and testing, packaging, shipping, installation and condition monitoring, etc. So students, from today's class we learned about the agency which is covered the various types of standards. Number 1. Number 2 is you can understand about the specification. procedures. Then we understand about the Indian standard, which is helps for the NDT, and the international standard, which is helps for the NDT. And the next class, and that is a third class of this topic, will discuss the various type of standards according to the non-destructive testing. So till then, stay at home and stay safe. Thank you so much, class.